morning. Prof. Dale Weber, Vice Chancellor of Grad Studies and Research, invited guests, heads of department, colleagues, and students. Welcome to the first session of the day. This morning we'll have a keynote address by Dr. Tyrone Grandison. But before we get started, yesterday evening, Prof. Lancashire was asked about who the first woman PhD graduate of the faculty was, and he went back and did some research. Seems the records don't go back that far, but
my records do.
Your records do, yes. And it would appear that that was Shirley Thomas in 1970. That was a PhD in chemistry, and that may have arguably been the first in the faculty as well. The second was Dr. Herman Miller, and the third was Helen Parkins.
Who was the presenter, Helen Jacobs?
The moderator yesterday. So those were the first three science PhDs in the faculty. This morning we're going to get some opening remarks from Professor Dale Weber. His office is actually one of the sponsors of the conference. They give funds to market and promote the conference. For that, we're very grateful to the cost of it. So, anyway, now we'll have Dr. Weber.
No, I'll work with this. Thank you. I was looking for the dean because he and I have a little discussion we need to complete, which we'll talk about in a second. But deputy deans I see, heads of departments, faculty members, staff, students, well-wishers, our plenary speaker this morning. Colleagues, good morning to you all. My apologies for yesterday. First of all, I would like to have been here yesterday, but until the Faculty of Science and Technology is able to do this cloning business so I can be in two places, I actually was speaking yesterday at the Salises conference in Montego Bay, so I decided I would give them a little yesterday and give you more today. Coming home is always special, and I feel like I'm coming home to this faculty because this is my home. This conference, which is being staged under the theme Science for Society, Fit for Purpose, brings into focus the much-needed visibility for research that is being conducted in the faculty. And that is why I have contributed to the publicity, the awareness, and the knowledge transfer that happens in the conference. There is growing recognition that the solutions to the challenges that are affecting the region are embedded in science and technology. I must therefore commend the faculty for the timely staging of this conference, which provides an outlet for the discussions on research within the faculty. They are fundamental, they are informative, and they are transformational. Over the years, the Faculty of Science and Technology has continued its efforts to create the environment which stimulates growth, creativity, and a passion for excellence. The fruits of the faculty's work is evidenced in the contributions and awards that our researchers continue to receive. Recently, the Climate Change Group, Agriculture and Food Security, Renewable Energy, Health and Wellness, Disaster Management, Specialized Materials, and Nanotechnology have all been awarded in the Principals Awards. Well, let me go to the strategic plan. The strategic plan for 2017-2022, which is our roadmap going forward. Increasing pressures from our external stakeholders have more than ever impacted the inward operations of the university as we look outward. As we embark on this new strategic plan, agility, which is our ability to respond to external and internal changes in a fast and reliable way, is one of our goals. Ability to provide more affordable, flexible, and diverse education operations is also important, and we put that under access. And finally, how we align our research with the public and private sector is a pivotal part, and it's the third pillar. The Faculty of Science and Technology, through staging this event, has already relayed its ability to lead in this charge. It creates a kind of win-win opportunity where both our academics and industry partners can fully recognize the impact and relevance of the work that's done in this faculty. Our inward transformation has always also had an overarching impact on the priority of the School for Graduate Studies and Research. The teaching and research programs that are operating within this faculty have been renewed not once, not twice, but 3 times over the last 5 years, so that we are sure that we're teaching and delivering that aspect which is important to our society. But how do we know this? At the start of the 2017-22 strategic plan, the School for Graduate Studies and Research conducted a bit of research on its own. We tried to find out from all the 17 contributing countries to the university what were the developmental needs and goals that those countries had. Well, based on frequency of occurrence and how important they deemed those aspects to be, we created a matrix. You may be surprised, or not, that the 10 most important things to the development of the Caribbean countries, in order of importance by frequency: the economy; 2, governance and reduction of bureaucracy; 3, social policy and national security; 4, the environment, both built and natural; 5, energy, and by energy they grouped alternative energy, renewable energy, exploration for energy, exploitation, and lack of energy. 6, education, and that's both primary and secondary, but there was little focus on tertiary, which raised an alarm in our minds. Health and wellness, that's number 7. Competitiveness, number 8. Tourism and culture, 9, and agriculture and food security, 10. In doing that little review, we found out that 6 of those 10 priorities for all 17 countries of the Caribbean are areas researched by the Faculty of Science and Technology. You, therefore, are well positioned to be responsive to the entire Caribbean. Our future goals, well, I'm going to give you a little more to clap on. Our future goals requires even more strategic approach. It requires an adoption of a one UE approach. And that's what's being exemplified here today, and that's what my office tries to do. It is that mindset that allows us to successfully drive initiatives that are specifically aimed at fulfilling those 10 niches that we had, plus the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the CARICOM Millennium Development Goals, the National Development Goals, and Caribbean goals by individual entities. So across the 4 campuses, we have brought together entities that can work together to answer the requests of all those areas. We do this by something called clusters. We have in this one university platform created research clusters to respond. There are 21 research clusters now, and I could give you the long list. There's some that you may not know about or wish to know about, like international trade and economic partnership, integration studies and CSME, competitiveness, cultural and entertainment industries. So those are some that may be out of the realm of Faculty of Science and Technology. But of these 21, again, you may be surprised or not that half of them are in your realm. Climate change and sustainable development, in your realm. And that cluster has already been operationalized. And as you know, climate change is one of our strengths. Education, in your realm, especially science education, in your realm, and that cluster has been operationalized. Health and wellness, you may think, okay, that's medicine and care, but there's a lot of work that's being done. Mosquitoes, on strangle IDs. So there are a number of things that have happened within the faculty that can continue to happen. That cluster has been operationalized. And agriculture and food security is the most recent one that we operationalized. And I thought I would have seen my friend Dwight here because he is one of the persons who has helped us. And a cluster really is where 2 or 3 persons from 2 or 3 campuses have been brought together to study a particular area. Agriculture and food security is one, so we have the Faculty of Agriculture and Food Security at St. Augustine with the Department of Life Sciences here and the Sir Cedar Ramphel Center for Trade at Cave Hill. And they're all working together on what is the next food security issue for the Caribbean. But here's my challenge to you. So that's 4 of the 21 that have already been operationalized and you have a part in it. I have some that I need leadership on. Natural hazard management. And I'm looking for my geology friends because there you go. So we need to talk and tell Simon that I'm looking for it. Governance and management of the Caribbean Sea. Marine sciences, yes, I see you at the back there. Biodiversity and environmental protection. Life sciences, and I noticed that some of the posters, there you are, Dwight. Renewable energy. I'm back to the physics department. Where is Ms. T? There you go. So I'm pointing you out now, and I'm opening these windows of opportunity. Biotechnology. We have a cluster that we need to get going. And big data, Gunjan, they are looking for you. Those are 6 clusters which need to be formed. Now, the cluster gets a little money. It's not a lot of money, but my office provides enough startup funds to get the people together from all the campuses. You determine what your research agenda is. We give you enough money to go, it's seed money, to go after a larger grant, and the university as one entity then approaches large funding agencies. That's what I'm offering, and I need takers, and I need takers quickly. The strategic approach involves increased visibility of research. That's been conducted within all our faculties. The School for Graduate Studies and Research, under its new strategic plan, has, for the fulfillment of this plan, AC4. I don't know if you've looked at the strategic plan, access, alignment, agility. Within each of them, you have a drill down. Well, under access, AC4 is mine. It says, I am to increase the quality, quantity, and impact of research, innovation, and publication. This conference is already helping me because you are dealing with some publication, you're dealing with access, and you're dealing with sharing information. But I would like to share with you 3 little bits of data that I think you'd find important. Over the last 5 years, the publication from the faculty has been kind of up and down. And I'd like to throw a challenge out. In 2011-12, there were 81 publications from the faculty. In 12-13, 75 publications. In 13-14, 110 publications. In 14-15, I don't know why we went to sleep. There were only 35 publications. And in 15-16, 111. We're still compiling the data for 16-17. It means that the campus, over the last 5 years, has contributed between 8% at its lowest and 25% at its highest of the entire campus publication. We can do better than that. We are the science faculty. The per capita output is what we like to look at, and that has ranged from 0.38 per person, which is way below the target that we've now set as 2 papers per individual per year. And at its best, it's gone up to 1.17. But here's the real crux of the matter. Each year that we've had large enough publication, and I'm saying large enough, you're getting a ratio of 0.8, 0.9, getting closer to 1. Less than half the faculty of science colleagues are publishing. So in 11-12, there are 91 full-time faculty, only 42 of them published anything in that year. In 12-13, 93, and only 41 of them published. In 13-14, 94, and only 46 of them published. 91, in 14-15, 91 faculty, and only 17 published, and that was the bad year. And in 15-16, there were 100 faculty and 38 published. So I put it to you that it is not that those of you who are publishing need to do more publishing. It is that those of you who are not publishing need to get onto that wagon. So I'm speaking to the faculty in general, and I'm speaking to the leadership of the faculty. We need to find a way to get those who have not published or are having difficulty, we need to get those on board. Those that are publishing, and we often say we will give those who are publishing a little more slack so they can publish some more. And we will give their teaching to other persons who are not so great on publishing. That doesn't work. It doesn't increase the publication of those who are already publishing, because you're publishing at full tilt anyway. We need to get those who are not publishing, but know how to, but for some reason have fallen into the doldrums. We need to do that. So my office is willing to work through the campus, through the faculty office, to try and get greater publications in any way that we can. We are willing to provide seed funds. We're willing to provide opportunities in terms of learning. We have changed the faculty structure within most of the university to ensure that there is an avenue for publication. And within my office, we now have one person who is in charge of grant acquisition, one person who is in charge of grant management and competitiveness and innovation and intellectual property, and one person who you know very well, who came from the faculty office in Stevenson, who is responsible for research clusters. The clusters that I talked about, that you're going to help me populate and grow. So Tisha is the person who drives that, so you know where to go. So the strategic approach involves building bridges. It bridges between the divide between academia and industry, and that's what you're doing today. Science and industry partnerships are, in fact, desirable dreams that can be doable. I saw that as a question that's coming up later, but it is doable. Bridging the divide, however, relies not just on the shoulders of academics, but those who are the future. Those are the leaders, the graduate students of tomorrow. We recently had one of our colleagues from the big data cluster that we're trying to move, Professor Hussein from St. Augustine, speak at the Mona Research Days, and his comments were telling. He said, industry members must be willing to invest in local talent rather than foreign consultants. That's true. They must also be forward-looking and understand good research takes time. But we also need to realize that we need to get ahead of the curve and start getting some of the research done before they even know they need it. 3, they must be willing to provide students with opportunities to prove themselves. We must give them a chance. And don't forget, a chance to fail is still a chance. It is by your failures that you sometimes learn how you get it right. Don't be afraid to fail. University must provide that opportunity to have real practical problems and novel techniques. And finally, we must have students who are suitably trained to get out there and make a difference. As I come to the close, I'd like to leave one more thought with you. We need to push our research to the maximum. We need to take our innovation to the next step. The university right now has 26 patents. I know we are in our 70th year of service and 70th year of leadership. I would have hoped we would have 70 times 70 patents and licenses, and we should have been way out there. We have 26 patents, the entire university. All 4 campuses, all 17 countries, a measly 26. Of the 26, 18 of them are from this faculty, this campus. And I think that deserves applause. As I look through the names of the patents, because I have to pay for them every year to renew them and keep them going, and some of them I'm scratching my head and saying, why am I doing this? I realize that this is but the first step in terms of unlocking the potential for the research to become a return on investment, to become an avenue for greater research and greater funding. I beam with pride when I see names like Reese, Robinson, Core, Yee, Azumoto, Jacobs, Garaway, and I'm even more proud when I see postgraduate students attached to all these patents. So 18 of 26 are yours. It means you are the researchers that are making a difference. You are the researchers we have been waiting for. You are the future, but guess what? You are the now. As I listened to yesterday's presentation, I have come to accept once again that the Faculty of Science and Technology is producing science which is foundational. It is innovative, and it is transformational. It is therefore fit for the purpose that we have. I wish you continued success in your conference today and tomorrow, especially the business leaders sessions, which will again enhance the alignment between industry and academia. My apologies that I won't be able to be here because I'm actually catching a flight immediately to Barbados to try and sort out some other issues with the university at our council. But I close by issuing you a challenge. Look at those clusters. Look at those innovations. Look at those opportunities. Work with us in the School for Graduate Studies and Research because we are here to make you look good. I challenge you to increase the collegiality, the focus, the innovation, the creativity that you have been doing. Because you are the light rising from the west, and this is your place to shine. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Prof. Weber. Have time for one question, if anyone has any.
Or one confirmation that you are going to take the cluster. You can be in as many clusters as you think you can manage. What I need now is cluster leadership. Because we intend to grow the clusters. They're not going to stay static. We're going to continue to grow them. And in fact, the clusters are going to start overlapping because, for instance, climate change and food security, the connection is strong. Renewable energy, climate change, is strong. Health and wellness, that overlaps with some of, so there are many overlaps in terms of the clusters. So we then have a meeting of all the leaders of all the clusters and diversify back. Because you can't find, for instance, the last EU application that went out, it was at least 3 clusters that were going to group together to make the application as strong as it should be.
I'm happy you said that because again, the new cluster that you spoke about, big data, overlaps with all the other clusters that exist.
And for instance, there are clusters like gender justice, which overlaps with many of the other clusters that are already out there.
I have a particular interest in, your comments regarding publications, and we recognize that we do a lot of work, but we don't actually publish for various reasons, or don't publish as much for various reasons. But I am suggesting there is this new idea about data publication of data sets, which can be used and searched by others and used for other publication. And I would like for the university to start to recognize or move towards recognizing the publishing of data sets as part of your list of they're peer reviewed as part of your list of publications that you can have.
Revolutions come not when things are at their worst, but when things have started to change but are not changing fast enough. We are on the cusp of that revolution. You would be surprised, or not, to know that we are again examining what is a publication. So data, that's clear. Remember, my goal is increase the quality, quantity, impact. We have gotten to the point where I've gotten University Appointments Committee, and I hope this is going to filter back down now to Campus Appointments Committee, to go back to technical papers, because some technical reports are far more valuable than a publication in an impact factor journal 3.5 and 7.2. I came across research where the gender policy, and I'm speaking of gender because there are 6 entities that report to the Vice Chancellor through me. Gender and Development Studies is one, SALISES, TMRI, etc. Those are the university research centers, which do very little teaching, and their job is to research, research, research. In fact, where we hold you to at 2 publications per full time, they have 4 as their goal. We have looked at gender policies, and there are 5 Caribbean countries, because remember I'm doing the entire Caribbean, 5 countries where the gender policy has been written by research from the University of the West Indies Institute for Gender and Development Studies. That will never make its way into an impact journal. But if you can influence the national policy of 5 countries, I call that impact, and I stroke that right beside some of the journals that you would give. I don't think I put it beside a Science or a Nature, but I certainly am going to score that as high as some of the publications that you have in other kinds of journals, because you are making an impact. Remember, it's quality, quantity, and impact. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have the remarks from Tyrone, but before he speaks, we'll have Dr. Bennett introduce him.
Morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be introducing Tyrone this morning. He's asked me to be nice. Of course I'll be nice. Tyrone, we're very proud of you, and we're happy that you're here. I'd like to say that at the outset. So here are just some of the things about Tyrone. Dr. Tyrone A. Gradison is the founder of the Data-Driven Institute, which is a public health nonprofit that helps communities and businesses transform data into insights, products, policy, and application. He is the 2018 Eisenhower Fellow. He's the first ever CIO of the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. He also advises the government of Jamaica on their information technology strategy as a member of the National Information and Communications Technology Advisory Council from 2016 up until now. He is the Deputy Chief Data Officer. He was the Deputy Chief Data Officer at the U.S. Department of Commerce. This was 2015 to 2016, where he co-founded the Commerce Data Service, a data startup within the department that supported its 12 bureaus and led to the successful rollout of its first 15 products. He was also a White House Presidential Innovation Fellow, and this was in 2014 to 15, working with the U.S. Department of Labor and the U.S. Census Bureau on their data and application programming interface initiatives. He is the CEO of Proficiency Labs International, which specializes in supporting organizations design, build, and evaluate privacy and security solutions for their systems. He is one of the managing partners of Metis Inc., a services company that specializes in solving organizational problems. He co-founded WOYHD.org, a service that helps consumers determine the privacy awareness of mobile healthcare apps. He's the co-founder of HIPAA Entrepreneurs, a service to help healthcare professionals with compliance and healthcare law. I found that very interesting. He's one of the co-founding chairs of the Diversity in Privacy and Security Seminar, DPAS, series, which seeks to increase the number of minority professionals and researchers in the privacy and security space. He's championing those who may not have had a voice in previous times. He's the founding partner of Wonder Women Hacks. I like that one, Tyrone, which is a hackathon dedicated to the number of women in tech, providing a support system for female technologists and helping to solve issues relevant to women. Good job. He's a founding partner of Hacks for Humanity, a collaboration with Arizona State University Project Humanities, which seeks to develop technology to reconnect people to their humanity. He's also an adjunct professor at the University of Technology in Kingston, Jamaica. Dr. Granderson was the CTO and co-founder of Equality TV, where he led the platform and technical strategic initiatives. He has over 25 years experience in software engineering, security, and privacy. His work in database security and privacy has been internationally recognized as pioneering and impactful. In addition to relational data privacy and security, he has created and successfully led research and product initiatives in RFID data management, privacy preserving mobile data management, private social network analysis, text analysis, and healthcare management systems. His career started as a software engineer in Jamaica. He received a BSc from this university, also an MS degree in software engineering in 1998, that is the MS in 1998, and a PhD degree in computer science from the Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine in London in 2013. He is an IBM Master Innovator, a distinguished engineer of the Association of Computing Machinery, ACM, a senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineer, a fellow of the British Computer Society, a fellow of the Healthcare Information and Management System Society, HIMSS, and an Eisenhower Fellow, which I've told you before. He's been recognized by many organizations. Some of them he's been recognized by FedScoop as the most inspiring up-and-comer in the United States government in 2015, the Black Engineer of the Year Award Board as a modern-day technology leader in 2009, Minority in Science Trailblazer in 2010, Spectrum Trailblazer in 2012 and 13, the Institute of Education as High Impact Presidential Fellow in 2016. He has authored over 100 technical papers, co-invented over 47 patents, and has written several books, 2 of which are Trust Management Middleware for Internet Application, Combining Trust, Recommendation, Risk and Experience, and Cybersecurity Risk Assessment for Business. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many more, but I think this is a lot of achievement to recommend Tyrone to us this morning. He's an excellent choice to speak on the topic, Becoming a Nation of Innovation. Let's welcome Tyrone.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, thank you. Okay. Perfect. Let's start off. I was thinking about it this morning. Last night, it was 20 years ago that I was actually in those seats, not those exact seats, but similar seats. And it's a real honor to actually be here. So I want to thank everyone that organized this workshop. This is very intimate right now. Perfect. So round of applause to everyone that helped organize this event, because so far it's been fantastic. And I've been really excited and inspired by what I've seen yesterday. And Professor Weber's talk is like spot on. You're going to hear some of the same themes that you talked about this morning. So we're all thinking the same thing. I like to tell stories. So this is Jessica Matthews. And back in 2007, she was around 18. She went to her aunt's wedding in Nigeria. And the lights went off, and the diesel generators, put the light back on. And immediately Jessica saw that there was like potential harm from the fumes from the diesel generators, right? This inspired her. This was her motivation to go back, when she went back to school a year later, to design something called a soccer ball. It's actually called SOCCKER. And the whole genesis of it was that how do you actually use motion-sensitive and miniaturized power systems to generate electricity off-grid for people in her community. She did it at the age of 18. By the time she was 21, she had mass-produced soccer balls for all of Nigeria, providing light for kids that wanted to read or do their homework at night. Now she's 29 and she's running an international company that does this, produces miniaturized lower power systems for people that want off-the-grid use. Jessica is the spirit of innovation, of entrepreneurship. I'm going to say something that's kind of radical but not kind of radical. The thought is that every single person in here has that same spirit. And 2 things are actually necessary to actually make innovation happen. The first is knowledge. Knowledge of a problem, a meaningful problem, a problem that you know well. So by show of hands, how many people have something on a weekly basis that annoys them? Raise your hand. All right, you have a problem, right? You know that problem really well because you experience it, you live it, you breathe it. That's the first step. That's the first ingredient that you need to have. The second is, like, you need to know how that problem is actually being experienced by the wider community. Like, how do people experience it? How do people actually handle it? How should a solution be shaped such that it actually fits into their viewpoint, their workflow? What is the foundational, like, technical knowledge that you need to have to actually bring this solution into the world, right? Luckily, you're at a university, right? As a computer scientist, you're learning the techniques that you require to build these solutions. So I'm going to say that the knowledge part, if you don't have it, you can always actually get it somewhere. You can always actually ask someone around. You can always collaborate. When it comes to will, this is the part that I find the most interesting because will has 2 dimensions to it, right? Will is that perseverance for you to actually constantly engage with the problem and the people experiencing the problem and the community to get it done, but it's also, how do you actually push your idea into a world where the incentives may not be aligned, where people may not be on the same page as you are, right? Typical here, I just say the political environment in Jamaica. How do we actually move that such that it creates an environment that supports the innovation that we want to actually have? Simply put, and this is the standard definition of innovation that I use. I put this slide in because I know academics are in the room and you want to define stuff, so here you go. Innovation. How do you actually take an idea that's new to a particular field, apply it, develop new products and services that create value? That's the key. Value has to be created for the consumer that actually uses this. All the talks yesterday were really impressive in that I saw innovation, I saw innovative solutions. And I saw the hint of the university actually saying that, it's not an ivory tower, it's not an island, it actually sits in a community, well, it sits in an ocean of problems, and it should be engaging with the community around it to actually figure out and solve those problems actively. The interesting thing about when I actually graduated and right now is that right now it's much easier for you to actually contribute to an international project, to have global impact. Back in the late 90s, sounds so old, you can actually see the barrier to entry. Like you couldn't just get up and say, I'm going to write this piece of code and I'm going to actually deploy it somewhere and have millions of people actually using it. Now you can, right? So we're in a time and space where each one of us either has or can acquire the ability and the resources to have amazing impact. Each one of us can use our superpowers. We each have superpowers. If you don't think you do, we can talk afterwards. I can tell you what it is. To solve a real problem. And that problem could actually impact thousands, if not millions of people. Each one of us, as evidenced by the talks yesterday and by the discussions we've been having, can actually create solutions that are innovative. And I'm going to be definitive, like each one of us has to, if we're going to actually build a nation of innovation. We have to start from the bottom up, because if we depend on it coming from the top down, it's never going to actually happen. And my takeaway for you is just like, if a poor guy from Duane Park in Kingston 20 can be here talking to you about innovation, then you should be here talking like in a year or two. So Philippa mentioned a bunch of stuff that I've done, and there's not three of me. I haven't cloned myself yet. I'm just really bored quite easily, and I like working. At the point in time where I was trying to find myself, so to speak, and find what my core mission was and give back however I could, I ended up working with the Department of Commerce as their Deputy Chief Data Officer. That meant I ran the data initiatives across NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, across the Bureau of Economic Analysis, BEA, that produces GDP, across NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, that produces all weather data across the world, and 9 other different agencies, bureaus. My favorite was the Census Bureau, because the census had amazing volumes of data. Their problem was that it was in archaic forms. No one could actually understand it. The people that could leveraged it, repackaged it, sold it for millions of dollars. Great business model for a free resource. Census had the issue of, to show value, they had to show that it was actually being used by more people than the numbers actually said initially. So we had this thought, it was me and 2 co-founders at the time that were working for the Obama administration. What if we actually talk to the users? It's revolutionary. What if we actually talk to the people that you want to go out and build solutions for, and ask them what do they want from an interface? Want from census data itself. That is how City SDK was born, and it stands for a software development kit. And I'm going to use this example to go through the process of, how do you move from idea to product from the point of view of a technology person. And I apologize to all the non-CS tech people in the room. If you have a question, just raise your hand at the question time and we can talk through it. CitySDK, the whole purpose of it was how you get a community involved in using federal data with local data to solve their problems quickly and with less hassle to solve their own local problems, right? So the assumption was we did not know what the problems are going to be in Raleigh or Detroit or Miami. We depended upon the civic activists to actually come to our events, come talk to us, and use our framework to actually build out these solutions. We, believe this or not, we started this project in January of 2015. We had an MVP, a minimally viable product, within 2 months. We then had a beta ready within 2 weeks afterwards. And then we had amazing community uptake and engagement from that point on. And within a year, we got every single award that you could possibly get for a government project. So you see a few of those listed right there. Now, the Census Bureau has this interesting mission. We won't get into the history of it, but like right now, they collect 400 attributes on 320 different million Americans, right? That's a lot of data. Everything from health, commuting, demographics, you name it, Census has it. No, not citizenship, please. This, always a funny person. So, so if you wanted to do anything from figuring out like how many votes are going to be appropriated to a particular committee for Congress, for leadership, to if you qualify for particular benefits, everything uses census data in the US. So they become the trusted source for now, pre-citizenship, for data on the average American. What we wanted to do was ensure that the playing field was actually level, right? So I said before, lots of companies had this data, repackaged it, sold it, and you know, the American people were actually paying for this data, but they didn't have the know-how to actually use it for their own benefit. So our project was, you know, who do we want to actually gear a city SDK for, and why did we want to actually do it? We went through user discovery sessions. We figured out how people wanted to access the data. We did usability surveys to see how it should actually go into the workflow. We built services that were geared towards them, right? It was very simple. How do we increase access to census's data such that we have meaningful impact? And for us, impact was not just only downloads or API uses, it was actually real people having real life-changing decisions or things coming from using the data itself. The first thing we did is we set the guidelines. We're only going to play in this particular sandbox, and that sandbox was we're going to have an engagement model that leverages Census's disseminators. So Census has a dissemination team all across the US, different offices. We're going to look to the people that want to go to meetups and to hackathons and work with them on the problems that they knew intimately and help them within the space of an 8-hour period to solve it or get to the first step in solving it. We started off by doing something that it just made sense. It was their problem, it was their product, we wanted them to buy into it, so we created Scrum, an agile Scrum board using waffle.io, and we set up Gitter, which is G-I-T-T-E-R, all integrations into GitHub. We made everything public, so anyone in the community could, one, suggest different features and vote them up or down, and two, they could actually take chunks of functionality and implement it and build it back into the main branch if they wanted to. So we call this transparent co-creation because it sounds nice, but we're just being really open and having them actually like create with us so we get buy-in and we get like a sense of ownership from them. When we had the first, this is a listing session, we had 10 different departments, US federal departments, everyone from the Department of Energy to the city of DC that was involved. We basically leveraged at the time this guy, John Thompson, who's the director of Census. We leveraged every single person we could in the Obama administration to actually get this off the ground. And then 2 weeks later, with feedback from that session, we actually launched, right? And we supported only 2 cities initially. We supported DC and Chicago. The community actually said, nope, we want more. And we had 5 cities just like organically pop up. We have 10 projects that came or got developed from the City SDK initiative. The Twitter stuff, that's all the marketing team. So, you know, we had 1 million people looking or saying something about it in that day period. So we launched it on the National Civic Day of Hacking in 2015. So it's just a 1-day period. We were able to actually convert most of the people that use our technology into census users, right? So we had an 82% conversion, which was fantastic. The 4th step that we did was we learned from the community, whether it was the community saying, yes, you're taking the right approach, we love the fact that you're talking to us, keep on doing that, or it was somebody saying, oh, your response JSON file looks a little bit odd, can you modify it in this way, right? And it was basically worldwide. It was everyone from people in the US to, surprisingly, people in Berlin were using it quite heavily as well. The 5th thing is just like, once we got a groundswell of people that were committed and that were advocating on our behalf for City SDK, we started celebrating their successes. And I'm going to play a video of one of these companies that just loved what we're doing, Akarna Solutions.
Solutions is a big data and predictive analytics company.
We collect data from both our clients and publicly available resources and create models specific to each client that helps us create recommendations that that client should then use in their marketing communications.
United States Census Bureau data is extremely helpful to us because it's both very consistent, accurate, and we know that it's going to be available. My name is Adam Treiser, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of Arjuna Solutions.
I'm Rachel Bender, CTO of Arjuna Solutions.
We take all the data sets that a company may have about their consumers, their social media, their email marketing platform, their customer relationship management database. We then run our proprietary algorithms and analytics engine and come up with models that can tell us how individual consumers are likely to behave and what marketing messages and communications are most likely to influence those people's behavior.
We use census data to help supplement that data. For smaller companies, their data sets are not robust enough. With census data, we're able to provide recommendations on a much richer data set and make it possible for small clients to use predictive analytics. What we see with larger clients that may have already had the ability to do predictive analytics is that census data makes those predictions more accurate.
If I ask everybody for $100, there's probably a large percentage of people who will actually give me $100. But how many of them would have given $125 or $150 had I known to actually ask for it?
Most of the data that we collect from the Census Bureau revolves around the environments in which people live.
Information about housing, economic growth, different educational patterns, all within specific geographic locations, by zip code, by county, by state.
Arjuna Solutions has always used census data. However, in the past, it's been a very manual process. We would spend anywhere from 10 to 100 hours trying to implement our models and incorporate census data. Now with the use of City SDK, we've actually programmed with that API to include all of the census data that we feel will be predictive for that client, and this happens within a matter of minutes. This allows us to free up our technical resources for other initiatives and save cost on delivering to our clients. We're actually able to serve more clients who would not otherwise be able to afford predictive analytics.
Many large companies have entire departments to simply gather and collect a proper data set to perform the analysis they actually want. Smaller and medium-sized companies, they don't have that specific group of people whose sole job is to collect and gather these data sets.
What we can do with City SDK is collect about 26,000 data points and let our algorithms do the work.
In one example, the use of City SDK and United States Census Bureau data allowed us to actually make predictions on 68,000 more people for a specific one of our customers, 219% more people than we could actually make predictions on originally. The United States Census Bureau data is actually owned by the American public, and our government makes this resource available to anybody who wants to use it. And that's a very important component to the service we provide.
Census data has been very impactful to us as a company and to our clients, and it really shows in the numbers.
$25 that we have of the power of using City SDK. The sixth step that we normally do is that we take the feedback from our community, from our users, and we take the feedback from the metrics that we have that we're gathering, and we use that to fuel improvement. I shudder from actually using the word agile or lean, because in my mind it's one more way of actually doing continuous learning and continuous development, right? And continuous improvement. So that's what we actually advocate for in terms of, and I'm going to go through these quickly because I realize I have 8 minutes left and 12 more slides. It's not a good ratio. So these are some of the apps that were built using City SDK, and we have everything from how do you actually make sure that raw organic foods that are about to expire can get to a market that wouldn't have access to it, so it can actually be consumed at a lower price point, to how do you get people to move around and figure out where to live in Minnesota if they have disabilities, to how do you standardize on energy standards from the Department of Energy and NIST and Census. And the last one was a web application that was for food truck vendors. So how do food truck vendors know where people are hungry? Well, we look at tweets and we look at where traffic is through the different transportation ports. There are also a few initiatives that we did that were inspired by City SDK, right? So once you have democratized this data and you start digging into it, you find really interesting and sometimes scary stuff. The first one was the Opportunity Project, and the premise is basically very simple. You want everyone to have the same access to opportunity irrespective of where they're born, right? So it's just, how do you actually give back, and how do you make sure that people can maximize the potential of them being upwardly mobile? We partnered with like every single company from Amazon to Zillow to co-build solutions with them, and they did everything from new Alaska skills for opportunities to figuring out what's the best school to go to figuring out what's the best area to go to increase the chances that you're successful in life. Successful was defined by reaching a certain income level. There is the Help Girls of Color initiative. In the US, there is a correlation between the fact that, and this is heavy, that minority women and children get punished more frequently than everyone else in school. And this continues for a long time, and it leads them to prison. So most of the prison construction industry in the US uses the third grade exam test results to figure out where they're going to build prisons and how many cells they should actually have. We used this particular project as an educational tool to hopefully change behavior from the educators and the people in the space to recognize that there is a problem. So we use census data to kind of recognize that there is an issue here happening, and there is a pipeline, it's called the school to prison pipeline, that we needed to actually actively solve, but we couldn't solve it with technology, we can only put a spotlight on it. We can solve it with human interaction. The final project I'm going to talk about is the MIDAS, which means making income data available as a service. Again, we use the City SDK data, and we took out the income and wealth portion of it. How many people here have heard the statistics that women get paid 79 to 80 cents to every dollar a man makes? Raise your hand. Okay, only a few. That's interesting. Well, now you've heard it. It's fine. So now you know that it's actually false. So it's missing a qualifier. It's normally on average. And everyone here knows that average is lie, right? So if you look at the data, the raw data, you'd see that an average African-American woman actually makes, in the 50% quartile, makes around 60 cents, right? And it goes down. If you look at the top 1%, and you just look at Caucasian men and women, then you actually see that the Caucasian woman makes around 30 cents to every dollar that a man makes in the 1%. So the data is actually nuanced, and we needed to, one, show it, and then use it to actually launch other initiatives. So we used this to launch something called Hack the Pay Gap Initiative, and that was working again with community members and companies to figure out what solutions we can actually do to help narrow the pay gap between the different groups. So the 4 things that were common to all these initiatives, everything I've actually done within the last decade, is the fact that they have these 4 elements. Purpose, like what's the problem that you're trying to solve and for whom? Expertise, like what's the knowledge that you need of the space and what do you need to execute on it? The environment, like what conditions need to be in place and how is the solution going to be integrated back into the real world? Because the worst thing is to actually have a solution that you've created and have it turn off in like a year or 2. So you want to build it so it lasts for the long term. This also actually addresses or encompasses how do you make sure that the business, the legal, and the societal framework are in place for your solution to exist long term, right? And I'm thinking in Jamaica, like the biggest portion of the hindrance is probably going to be on the legal policy side. And process. So processes, okay, what's the steps to implementation? How do you do it so people can actually see the thing that you're building and react to the thing? And how do you build it such that it actually matches with how they work, the way they work? Okay, I probably already said this. So if you want to become a nation of innovation, like every single one of us in here has to be doing this for every project we're doing, and it has to be natural. You have to think about the purpose. You have to make sure that we have either the expertise or get people with expertise to partner with. You have to think about the environment, and then we have to actually like execute. The interesting thing, when I think about projects now, I think of it like a BLT sandwich. That's my acronym, BLTS, Business, Legal, Technology, Society, or Social. And the technology portion is normally the portion that is the easiest that you do, right? You have to solve for the other things first. And when you solve for those, it becomes so much easier. It took me a while in government to learn that even though I can actually build a technical solution for you in 2 weeks, you may not be ready for it. It behooves me to spend 6 to 9 months solving the business and the societal and the policy problems, and then doing it in 2 weeks to actually make sure that you're going to own it, you're going to love it, it's going to last. All right, I have 1 minute left. Okay, okay, thank you, 5 more. All right. So I wanted to dig into a little bit about each one of these pillars. So the first one is purpose. And by purpose, I mean like, what are we doing in terms of fundamental social problems? What are we doing in terms of income inequality? What are we doing in terms of education equality? What are we doing in terms of opportunities and hope and homelessness? Like, what are we doing in terms of the real social problems that will exist no matter what fancied rocket we build, no matter what deep AI gets out there, no matter what robots we actually use in our homes? Like, unless we solve these core issues, they're going to exist for a long time. The fact that you have hot topics does not mean that the hot topics should be the things that you're working on. I asked the question initially, like, what problems do you have weekly that you find annoying? I can guarantee you none of those problems have anything to do with AI. Hello? Okay. None of those problems have anything to do with augmented reality or virtual reality or machine learning. I'm just guessing, right? The expertise, the important point here is just like, you're in an institution where you're getting a lot of the foundational, the fundamentals. I mean, I want to thank Gunjan, I want to thank Leela, I want to thank all the faculty here because the foundation that you gave me in computer science, phenomenal, like phenomenal. The onus is on each one of us to actually keep up and learn everything else, whether it's actually learning BigQuery or Hadoop or R or Julia or whatever the latest technology is. Like, this is all yours. This is all for you to actually do. The foundations are here. In terms of the environment, I won't dwell on that too much. I'm just going to say like the the policy, and realigning business models such that incentives are aligned to actually make this happen. Critical. Making sure that you have a solution that people love, that people want to actually use, that people won't ignore after like a month or two. Like, make sure it works within their workflow. Process, very simple. I'm not calling it lean and agile, short cycles, continuous improvement and development. Make sure the user is at the center of everything you actually do. They co-create it, they basically give you feedback, they love it, they own it, they'll make sure that if anything happens to it, there's a little test we used to do. A product is successful if you yank it from the system and lots of people scream and complain, right? We want that. So this is the cycle. It's a little bit wonky on here, but you get the picture. You understand the who and the why. You set your guidelines for engagement for the product itself. You co-create with your users. You learn from the community. You celebrate them at every single point because you want their buy-in. You want to make sure that you're all going in the same direction. You figure out what needs to be improved, and you repeat the cycle over and over again. Quick takeaway message. It's innovation. And being an innovation nation is not the purview and is not the responsibility of government or government officials. It is your responsibility. It starts here, starts with you, starts with your problems. Like, even if it takes like a little while to get it up and going, it's all in your court at this point. And with that, I'm just going to end and open for questions.
We have room for about 2 questions. So.
Impressive, Tyrone. My question is, so census data, big tool, in a Caribbean setting, what would be the next best thing? We're not going to have that kind of census data. Would it be constituency data? Would it be polling divisions? What kind of robust data set would we use to be able to make the same kind of predictions throughout the entire Caribbean, through St. Kitts, Jamaica, Antigua? Our census data isn't as, well, I don't think it's as good as that. I stand corrected, though.
I know they have census data, and it used to be collected on campus somewhere in Salices. And it is, I don't know how well it is used because I don't even know how to access it. I think long time ago, Lala and I had tried to get to it once, and we weren't even sure if all of it was even electronic. So they have been working, so it would be very good to see what they have. We really don't know what they have. Tyrone, I was intrigued when you showed that company Arjuna, and especially with a lot that's happening with Cambridge Analytica. Where does this data privacy, what are your views and thoughts on that? And I know it's a very broad and open question.
So 2 things. Let me comment first on Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. So back in 2007, myself and some colleagues wrote a series of papers and got some patents on how to actually make privacy native to social networks, privacy and security at the data level. We tried to engage the business community in actually doing something. The interesting feedback or story I got was, for the privacy and security space, no one really cares unless there's a dead body in the ocean. No one cares unless there's like a penalty or something damaging that's happened. At that point, nothing damaging happened, so no one cared. Right now, the social networks are doing what they intended to actually do. With Arjuna, it was a different model. It was a focus model. They had their clients, and their clients, well, were coming to them for one focused targeting, right? And they basically made sure that they had the legal team and the ethics teams at Census signed off on all the campaigns that they actually did. So there are more controls there than there ever was at Facebook. So Capita Output bad, Arjuna not so bad. Another question? Oh, sorry, that was 2.
Hi, Tyrone. I want to congratulate you again on all your success. We're very proud of you. I wanted to ask a question about the community engagement, because I think with open data and those initiatives, and you spoke about the importance of the community engagement. Did you have to do anything specific to get that community engagement? And do you think that could translate to problem solving locally? Like, do you think we could, the culture is such that we could get that same kind of community engagement in development? And do we need to succeed something to get that kind of model?
So quick answer is yes. So community engagement was the thing that made all of these initiatives successful. So one is, figure out what are the venues or the tools or the congregations of people or the places, the venues that they actually go to, right? And how they like to engage. So doing what I call a discovery session on who the end community is that you want to actually engage with is the first thing. Figure out how they, gel and jam, second thing. With our case, it was a lot of hackathons, a lot of meetups. It was a lot of the disseminators at Census, just knowing people in different communities and leveraging their community leaders to actually be advocates and evangelists on our behalf, right? So the discovery session, figure out who the users are, figure out where them live, where them hang out, and then go there.
Thank you very much, and we'll have a gift presented to you by Mr. Dean Jones.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Grandison. It is indeed a pleasure to be here to thank you on behalf of the organizing committee, the Wonder Women in ICT that are here today, and the wider UA community. I'd just like to say thanks for being here to give us this talk on becoming an innovative nation. I am a current member of these same halls that you have walked through, currently forming my foundations. And so for me, it is indeed inspiring that you should be here to give us this talk. You have not only just taught the talk, but you have shown, you have demonstrated that it can be done. And not only in my discipline, you've given us a framework to show how we can apply these steps to innovating in our respective disciplines. And for that, on behalf of the community here today, I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Grandison.
So, one final word. I can't thank the team here, the CS department. I can't thank you enough. Like, you are why I am who I am. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of this session. Thank you again, Dr. Grandison. We will move right into our next session. It's the undergraduate forum, and the chair is Dr. Busby Earl. We were able to expand a little bit past the scheduled time because one of our groups dropped out. So it worked out rather well.
Thank you, Daniel.